everybody, welcome back to my kitchen. This is Tina. This is Tina Takes on Scratch Cooking. What we like to do over here is make up our own recipes. Most of them are tried and true. I've been making them for 25, 30 years. But today I thought I'd do something a little different. One of my favorite YouTube chefs actually mentioned this book here, and this is not a sponsored video. But I was intrigued by this cookbook. It's called the Italian-American Cookbook by Angie Roto and Scott Tacanelli. Apparently they are Michelin star chefs. They have a very, very popular restaurant that takes about 18 months to get a reservation at in New York City. And I came across the classic meatballs. I was reading through it, and it's really the identical recipe that I grew up making with one exception. Instead of using raw garlic, they used roasted garlic. So I went ahead and I roasted off some garlic the other day and I froze it. And we're gonna try it their way and see what we think, see what the differences are. So let's get cooking. I'm gonna start by grating up some Parmesan cheese that I have here. We need a cup of that. So I just very roughly chopped up this onion. We're gonna throw it in here, because the one thing is, when you're making meatballs, if you don't have the onions, I mean super finely diced, they really don't get done. The onion never cooks through. And I've got a loaf of Italian bread here. I just grabbed one of those take and bakes. I'm just gonna pull this apart and shred it up. No crusts. Wow, I can't believe that crust is coming off that easily. And I thought that I would just put this bread in this bowl over here. So let's add this milk. It's supposed to get really soggy, so it's gonna sit in there for about 15 minutes, and then we'll drain it out. Calls for a cup and a half of parsley. That's it. They don't add any other seasonings other than salt and pepper, where I always add some Italian seasoning. So I think I'm gonna break down today and put a little bit of Italian seasoning in here. I'm going to go ahead and mix our meats. And this is 1 pound of lean ground beef and 1 pound of veal. Now the trick with meatballs is you don't want to mix them too much. It will make them tough, okay? So really, you just kind of want to mix them gently, lightly, just until the meats are combined. So I'm going to I'm not going to even touch this any further until I can get the rest of my ingredients in here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add 1 cup of Pecorino cheese, which I think is going to be this whole bag. 1 cup of Parmesan. We're going to add some black pepper. And you know, I go always a little heavy on the pepper. Going to add 2 eggs. I'm just going to whisk these up a little bit just to make it easier. Let's put in our parsley, 1.5 cups of parsley. It calls for 1/3 of a cup of the roasted garlic. I took these out of the freezer. They're already melted. This actually calls for quite a bit of salt, which it's a tablespoon plus a teaspoon of salt. I just can't do that. That's just too much salt for my taste. Because again, you know, the cheeses have a lot of salt in them. So I'm going to probably end up putting about 1/2 teaspoon of salt in. So we're going to strain this bread. We have to get it as dry as we possibly can. And I like using this method with the towel because it's just easier on your hands. This way you can kind of just keep twisting it down. So let's just get that in there. And this is supposed to come out to be about 1.5 cups, I think, after you squeeze it. And here I'm going to add a little bit of Italian seasoning. I don't think maybe that's 1/2 teaspoon. I've got our onions in the paper towels and I'm just going to squeeze them out. Wow, lots of water coming out of that. Let's get that down in there. Oh, these are going to be so good. Now we're just going to gently mix all of this together with our hands because they're the best tool you have. Break up any of the cheese balls that you see in here. I have quite a few. Break all that up. If you come across a big bread ball, mix that in real good. Remember, we don't want to over mix these, but we do have to get it incorporated. All right, we're going to spray down this parchment paper. The oven's almost to temperature. And we want to use about 1/4 cup per meatball. And really, we don't eat a lot of spaghetti and meatballs, but we like meatball sandwiches. And I would say that these are smaller than a tennis ball, but bigger than a golf ball. Here's a better glance at them. And I'm just going to stick them into our 425-degree oven right now. I used all the bread. I wanted a sandwich. a meatball sandwich, but I used all the bread. So I am just gonna boil off some pasta here and make a little bowl of pasta and meatballs. I have some leftover red sauce in my freezer. We're gonna put that on top of it and have some lunch. And then we're gonna watch football. Definitely I can smell the cheese in there. I'm surprised I can't smell the garlic more. I'm gonna top this off with a little Parmesan. They're so moist and so tender and so juicy. Wow. The texture is phenomenal. Wow. Yeah, this is delicious. It is very, very good. Definitely add some seasonings, like Italian seasoning to it. And I would bread dry out overnight and then add your milk, then drain the milk out of it. You're going to have a better texture and consistency to that, I think. But man, it's spot on. The flavors are right there. Delicious. Thanks for spending your morning or afternoon or evening with me. And I look forward to cooking something from scratch next week for y'all too. Thank you. Let me know if you tried the recipes. Please put your comments down below. And we'll see you next time.